Hi everyone. I thought I'd go a little bit of an unorthodox way of describing um, space pirates. And this is unorthodox in a quite literal sense, right? Um, Orthodoxy tends to mean there's a right way to do it. And the problem I have with the orthodoxy of descriptions of space pirates is, to quote my own material really early in, Cockney accented privateers with Jolly Roger flags and cutlasses, but in space. I'm gonna get to describing a space pirate group. You're gonna wonder for the longest time throughout the video, why is this a space pirate group? I want you to compare and contrast the idea of pirates you have heard about in history or in myth in space compared to people committing acts of piracy in space, which is what I prefer. Um, we're going to talk about a cult now. This is a fictitious cult, of course. Uh, I'm still brainstorming it. There's there's a leader, of course. This leader discovered whether they were the first to discover it alone or not, whether they have a screw loose or not in the first place, right? For some reason, right, they've got this church with a ton of extra real estate, very isolated community, blah, 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 right? And they've got these different little places that are called sacred ground, right? One of these areas of sacred ground, out of a number higher than one, I'm not sure how many, um, is a place where a mech, probably an old prototype that eventually got scrapped by the United Earth government, right? It was shot down on the way um, after the. Actually, maybe not even after, but before its testing phase was to be done between one of, a number of competing models, right? This mech was shot down, right? And it maybe it already had a person in there, and that person died on impact, and was ripped out of the cockpit, and the cockpit was clean just enough. Or maybe it was unmanned in the first place, right? Someone had to eject, and they forgot to make sure someone was in there, or maybe, someone intended to take it, and now because there's a church there, they're not sure, and a little community sprung up, and right? Who knows, right? But there's this guy. I don't know the name of this guy. He's the high priest of the Church of Digital Gospel. That's what they're gonna call him, right? That's what I'm gonna call him. Uh, the the Church of Digital Gospel. I don't think is a real name, but if that turns out to be a real name, I'll change it later. I'll, I guess, apologize to whomever for hypothetically accidentally slandering them, I guess, uh, without ill intent. I've literally never heard of such a group. I'm just making stuff up as we go along. This is going to be modeled a little bit after the idea of cyber Gnosticism and other, from Baldur's Sky and from other cyber cults, right? There's a little twist on it. So, one thing to understand about cults, they kind of train people. Program actually is the right word. Undoing the training of cults is called deprogramming. It's a very important thing in life that there be people who can do it. And not enough people can because they don't usually hear about these kinds of things. And it's not always successful. It can be something that takes years and years. And apparently, people who leave cults um, tend to go to other things that are bad for them, like another cult or like an addiction of some kind, because these are people that no longer feel the purpose a cult gave them that filled the hole in their life. And so they're feeling that hole again. It's very important that they grapple with that. It's very unpleasant. So I've heard anyway. I haven't talked to any, or I haven't talked to many ex-cultists. I've talked to like 2 or 3 apparently. Um, Actually, I think 3 or 4. I wanna try and be as exact as I can. I don't usually talk to them much about that experience. Some of them are very open about it. But getting back on track here, right? Cult, we've got a high priest, we've got a name, Church of Digital Gospel. He's got a mech that's lodged just the head and torso. The arms and legs were probably destroyed on impact or ripped out on impact, and the back of the head and torso areas are also kind of wrecked, but they survived impact. And if anyone was in there, they died on impact because holy crap! Think about the G forces and acceleration and all the rest. But you know, it's a mech. It's gonna withstand that crap a lot more than a person. Metal tends to do that. Large metal objects tend to do that. Large metal objects with tons of surface area tend to do that. Right? So, however, this mech was there, in whatever condition previously its pilot or lack thereof was, there's this guy. He has it in basically the basement of the church at this point. Um, I guess the guy who lost it didn't want to talk about that for a while and left it out of the report. And finally, someone checks and they do a flyby of the area and they're like, I don't remember all this other stuff being here. I must be mistaken. Right? Um, as a cult, it exploits vulnerable people, right? People who have addictions, dead relatives, dying relatives, especially, divorces, people who are single parents, uh, or people who have a combination of those things, or people who are even dying themselves. And when I say dying, I don't mean like, oh yeah, you got your arm lopped off. I mean like these are people dying of terminal illnesses. It's gonna take a while, and people are suffering as they watch other people. They're suffering and they're watching other people suffer around them, and they'd probably want those relatives to go away, and those relatives are also a source of strength, um, etc. Right? Or those relatives will stick around. They'll just say, no, no, no. You can have this uh, fix, just join, X, what thing I believe in, and your soul will be saved. Maybe they don't believe in that, and that, worries them, but maybe at the same time they're being considerate of their relative who just gets told at the end they didn't believe hard enough, or that they needed to be a higher rank, and the spirits didn't tell the high priest that, right? And the high priest has this particular viewpoint that he advocates um, because he's got enough of this weird junk lying around. He's even got old, like our day, but old, because for us it's not old, but for the future it's old computers, or maybe it's even stuff from like the astronaut days, right? The early astronaut days, right? Could even include all that stuff too, right? However, this turns out, there's going to be people that he convinces, especially because they're vulnerable, that the internet is heaven. That the real world is the embodiment of all wickedness, right? And we were given these fleshy forms by God as a test to see if we could return to heaven. or something, right? But the real sticker here is robots and computers are spirits, little and big spirits, respectively to their size. Um, they're gonna say that these robots, depending on the form they take and which environments they are best suited for, are either golems or angels, and they're gonna have a copy of the training manual, uh, or the owner's manual, however you want to put it, including the repair stuff for this one wrecked unit that is inside of the basement, very deep basement, mind you, with plenty of stairs or an elevator even, of their church. This is just for the original church, the place where the high priest in particular does all his preaching. There might be other chapters because members start to do missions and all that kind of stuff, and they exploit more vulnerable people, and they become priests over those flocks. Or maybe the cult has to travel around from time to time, right, to places where people have never heard of them. But they say that these are golems and angels, right? These mechs. They only use those terms for describing these things. And the owner's manual, or whatever equivalent, was downloaded off of the one under the church, under the original church, if it's gone long enough. That unit's called the Angel of Acceptance, and people are told that, well, if you do enough work through your faithfulness, this angel in particular will become the mightiest of all of them, and it will be revived to enact God's plan on earth. Blah blah blah. Um, so this gets more complicated than the typical cyber cult because now there's a job for all these cultists of differing ranks, some of which are told that, oh, you're only a rank 4, so you don't get to do anything with the hands. Or, they're told, well, I'd really let you on to rank 7, but there's just something about your aura or about your faith that the spirits are questioning, and so for now we're going to keep you to a rank 6. It just seems that you're stuck there, right? And they do all this begging and pleading, and the cult leader says, I'll talk to the spirits. I'm their high priest. I'm the most in communion with them. Perhaps they'll even grant me a special audience, right? And they tell everyone to leave for the day, and or to that to let them sleep for the night and commune during their dreams. And they wake up and they didn't do a damn thing, but they came up with this plan already long ago, when they long before they told this guy they were only tier 6, that if you're just willing to do this particular job, the spirits are willing to accept you as a rank 7 on condition that you never, you know, uh, never try to go beyond these duties, right? And now they've trained this guy somehow to make the fuel, I guess, right? And this fuel might mess with their heads, or the fuel might not mess with their heads. And there's there's going to be more of these over time. There's going to be other robots, and these robots are created without the full programming. And members that display a particular aggressiveness, or that are unfavored, or what have you, right? Maybe they are close to revealing the secret because of their discontent, right? And this might even include the children. They're vanished away, right? And people are told, well, they decided to leave the community, and you can't stop them. If they don't want to be saved, they don't want to be saved, right? And what's really going on is one of these other sacred sites because I mentioned multiple. Only one of them is about the angel of acceptance that I was describing earlier. Right? These other ones include production factories. You know, they make the arms or the legs, or they make the heads, or they make the chassis, or the torso, or they make weapons, or they make shields, right? And they, got the emblem and all this other stuff, right? And this confuses the heck out of people if they ever see this stuff all put together, but or rather if they see it all separate, but once it's all put together and presented, they say, well, a new spirit has been born out of or a new spirit has been um, uh, um, empowered to the position of angel by our faithfulness, right? Um, and they do this in in any particular church they've got, right? Part of their facilities overall. And, or rather, not part of their facilities in an official, like, the community kind of sense, but in terms of, like, a town 3 days of drive elsewhere, that's enough separation, I suppose, in terms of noise and all the rest to keep people from thinking that, angels are just being made in their area. Or maybe they have unique production plants, right? Unique fonts of prayer, I suppose. Uh, fonts of fonts of the great labors, let's call it. And these are isolated facilities all on their own. Now to think about it, no one knows what goes on there. They just know they don't want to step anywhere near it. Most normal people generally don't want to interact with this cult just because they don't feel like it and because they're creepy enough that, yes, they draw attention to themselves so much so that it's just get out of the way, get out of the way, right? People don't like commotions, just saying. Some of them might end up with these areas causing commotions that keep people away. So, anyway, they make more of these angels and they've got these weapons and shields and they're so consecrated. And over time, right, there's different ones being made and they've got this, this one that is solely the high angel. The angel of acceptance is the greatest voice that stands between um, stands between the high priest and the Almighty, whatever the Almighty means, right? The unifying one, I guess you could call it, right? The angel of acceptance, so named not just because it accepts people into the fully fledged position of a follower of the Church of Divine Gospel, a practicer of the Way, whatever they decide to come up with for expressing it in a strange language that doesn't make sense, right? But not only that, they decide that they're called the angel of acceptance because they accepted the high priest immediately upon his visitation, upon his discovery even of the angel's dwelling place, where it remains injured from its previous battle against all things unholy. Um, and what essentially is going to happen is that particular one is going to have a little of everything uh, from all these other models and kind of make the best of all worlds. Uh, little joke there about Leibniz. Leibniz was a weirdo. But anyway, best of all possible options and equipment and such. And it'll even have, more hit points than all the other kinds and variants of models. Uh, and one day, if it should be completed with the full faith of every member, right, then uh, everyone that has ever been a member, right, shall be unified with their angels and their golems, and they shall take to the skies and to the ground, and they shall wage a war upon all the unholy, just as the angels and golems had before, and shall revolutionize and transform the world into a place of heavenliness. Naturally, a cult's gonna take a lot of fucking effort to keep up. And it's gonna take a lot of tests of faith. So if you want to have a cult, a cyber cult of this kind, right? This Church of Digital Gospel, space piracy. Tell them you need to slay the most heinous of unbelievers. Tell them you need to recover the people who once fled from the community. And oh no, we weren't strong enough in our faith, and he must have destroyed himself rather than allow us to redeem him in his waywardness. Right? Damn. Took 21 freaking minutes, and I'll probably have to chop this up. But I think I've got my second pre-generated space pirate group. The other one so far is a anti-government group that was a little outmaneuvered and has been trying to un-outmaneuver or be un-outmaneuvered from the government of the one world government this whole time, and may occasionally get chances where they put people on their toes about whether or not they're finally gonna win or something, right? Whether they're gonna finally succeed in the long run. I hope everyone's enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed my video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like my video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you want to give me a comment, give me a comment. And yes, I did borrow that from Mr. Scott Coram. It's a good way to end the video. Well, until next time, everyone, it's been a pleasure. This is MechMasterJ, logging out.